Hi everybody and welcome back. My name's Melissa and this year I'm sharing 365 tips for frugal living. Some are going to be easy to adapt to, some are going to be hard. If you already are in a lease, you can't exactly change where you live, and though that's great when the lease is up, you're still going to have to pay whatever rent the landlords in your area are saying you have to pay. You can't easily just move to a different house. You have mortgage and housing and insurance and car insurance, and there's only so much you have control over there. But one area where you have a lot of control over is what you eat. And we don't feel like we do a lot of the time. I know sometimes I haven't in the past felt like I had a ton of control over what I've eaten. But in reality, you have more control over that than almost any other area of your life. So you can easily stop going out to restaurants and ordering DoorDash. Those are like steps 1 and 2. And then step 3, stop going to drive-through and fast food and picking up to go. And then step 4 is obviously cooking at home. So I'm going to share some recipes and ways that I cook at home to save money and, stretch my grocery budget and such. So one thing that I've always wanted to be able to make and never had was to be able to make like a beef soup with beef soup bones. And I don't know, I guess I just never did. And a lot of the time, like, for a while I would see, so like short ribs and noodles used to be a poor person thing, and my mom used to make it all the time when we were kids, and I hated it. I guess like now it's gourmet and everybody loves it. I still hate it. Hate short ribs, but they went from being like pennies a pound to over $10 a pound, so they were no longer affordable. Just like soup bones that used to be scraps and the throwaway, at some point they were like $7, $8, $9, $10 a pound when I looked. So I was like, well, why am I going to pay that? Luckily, the soup bones have started coming down in price, and I did find some on discount for $2.71. So I was really excited because, like I said, I really wanted to learn how to make soup from scratch from soup bones. Now, this is something I have never done before. I'm completely doing it from a recipe online from food.com. This is not my recipe. Normally, if I know enough things, I will kind of just be like, oh yeah, these are the ingredients, and I know how to figure that out and put them all there. But this is something new to me, and the reason I'm showing you this is because I don't want you to assume that I have all sorts of culinary skills that I don't, because I have like zero culinary skills, like barely any. I mean, no training, knife skills suck. I have almost no culinary skills, but I'm not a terrible cook. I can figure out how to put food together and make it edible. So this is a new process to me, but I kind of wanted to show you how I go through it so that you can see that sometimes learning is a struggle, but it's worth it. So I'm going to take these soup bones, and the first step is going to be to roast them in the oven. It says at 450 degrees in a Pyrex dish. I am choosing this round Pyrex dish because the point is to catch the drippings, and I think I'll be able to fit them in there. It doesn't say to salt them, but I'm kind of wondering if I should season them. So I'll probably put some seasoned salt on them, and some ingredients will be substituted or eliminated. I hate celery, so I'm not adding celery because that's just a waste to me. And then I didn't have the Madeira wine. I have, I don't know, some sort of winking owl wine. What is this? I got this for cooking. I have a Merlot, so hopefully that works. I know red wine goes well with beef, and so we're gonna try that. So it says the first step is I want to put these in the Pyrex dish to, okay, so let's get the oven started warming up. Okay, so I have the soup bones, I have the pan, I have barely any of my seasoning left that's like pretty neutral, but I'm going to use it anyways. So I'm going to open these. Again, this is nothing I've ever worked with before. One thing is, though, is soup is a great way to stretch your grocery budget. It goes a lot further. So The bones look very different from each other. The one is very much so a bone. It's very hard. Like the marrow is hard. That is definitely a bone. There's like some fat on it, but this is definitely a bone. The other one, well, it is obviously a bone. Oh, there's 3 of them apparently. There is some meat on this bone. So I'm going to put that in. And then this one has like the typical, it's like the round bone and then meat. This like reminds me of the steaks my mom cooked when I was a kid. Because I remember she used to like give the marrow to the dog or something. So my hands are washed now. I'm going to just sprinkle. This is just like salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion. I'm almost out, so I'll make a video showing you how I make my seasoned salt. I don't put sugar in it like most people do, so that's good. Okay, so it says like 4 more minutes until the oven is preheated, but it didn't necessarily say it preheated in the recipe, so I'm going to just put that in and put up 45 minutes. Okay, so I have less than 6 minutes left. There are a couple of things I need to do to get ready for the stock. I need to chop the onion. Normally I just like to leave it fairly whole, but it said to slice it. So I'm going to do thicker slices. I really think I might need to sharpen my knife. And then let's see if I can just get this edge off very carefully without cutting myself. But yeah, that knife definitely needs to be sharpened. And then it said 2 carrots. But since I only have 2.5, and it said it wanted some for the actual soup too, I am going to just do, for the stock, because they'll get thrown out anyways, I'm going to do the ends of all the carrots and then just one of the carrots. One quick and easy trick. So 2 of them were new, but this one I've had actually the longest. And this one you can see has more bend to it versus this one's nice and firm. I have been storing it in water. Can you see just a little water in the fridge? And that has definitely helped. I saw it online a while back and I tried it and it worked. So I like it. Just thought I would share for anybody who may be a little newer to cooking. So we have about 10 seconds left on the tavala. I'm going to go ahead and quickly okay, so that's what it looks like. You can see that there's clearly a lot of fat in there, but again, I've never done this before, so I'm just going to keep doing what the recipe says. Now I'm going to go ahead and pause and take you over to the stove. Okay, so I'm over at the stove, and it says to put the soup bones in the pot. It says specifically remove bones and place in a large stock pot. So I don't know if I'm supposed to include the fat or not. I think I'm going to, just in case. Because it doesn't really say. If you've ever done this before and know I'm doing it wrong, please let me know. Part of me says to put the fat in there because, you know, fat's where all the flavor is. But part of me is like, well, maybe not. Because clearly getting these out is not the easiest task. I feel like these are really, really cooked. Okay, so it said to put them in the stock pot afterwards and then deglaze them, but I feel like I'm supposed to put at least some of these things from the bottom maybe in. like some of the little, I don't know, little pieces. I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. I'll put the fat over there for now because I really don't know what to do with it. And I guess I'll turn this on. Hate this stove. Okay, and it says to add a cup of wine. Specifically Madeira or cooking wine. I have Merlot, so that's what I'm using. I read somewhere that you should never use cooking wine. It's overpriced and it doesn't taste as good. So I don't know. I really feel like I'm missing a step here. Maybe it's okay. We'll kind of see what happens here. I'll probably at some point fast forward. It says remove bones, place in a large stock pot, add Madeira or other wine pan, deglaze. Okay, I think I must have forgotten what deglazing is because I thought deglazing was when you remove the bits from the bottom. And these weren't cooked in the stock pot. And I thought you kind of like remove the bits and let the liquid thicken. Okay, I think I might have actually screwed up. So I was right about the definition of deglaze. I was just confused about what the directions said. So I'm going to add just a little wine to the bottom of this. Because apparently I was supposed to use the wine to deglaze the pan. I thought it meant put it in the stock pot. So that just kind of confused me. So we will see how this turns out. Because I always think deglazing is done under heat too. Like, typically when I deglaze a pan, okay, so we'll see. This sometimes happens. And you will eventually probably try recipes if you are not a professional chef who has had all the training and screw it up too. But that's okay. Okay, so I totally screwed that up, but that's okay. Okay, so it said then to put in the onion, which I already chopped, or not chopped, sliced rather. The carrots, which I chunked, I guess you could say. The bay leaves, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 cloves of garlic smashed. I'm going to do this because that's how I like to do my garlic. Even though I'm pretty sure it means smash it with a knife. Okay, and then I'm supposed to cover everything with water. That part's easy. I can't screw that up, right? Okay, I guess I can because the soup bone still sticks out, but I will keep a close eye on it because I always have to keep a close eye on anything I cook. And then it says to bring to a boil, then lower to a simmer and simmer it for 3 hours. So I'm going to get that set on the stove. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's at a boil. So I am going to turn this all the way down, as low as I can get it, so that it comes to a simmer. Put that on. Set a timer for 3 hours. Just to let you know, because I don't know, I will continually check to make sure that the water is at an appropriate level. Okay, so it has been almost 3 hours. I'm like 5 seconds away. And I have been checking it. I have not had to add any water. And it's still pretty full. It smells amazing. And I'm really, really, really excited because I think I may have developed anemia. Because half of me is cold and half of me can't stop being too hot. So I figured, hey, why not try adding some beef? And I heard like bones are supposed to be really good and all blah, blah, blah. So I don't want to do the same thing I did the last time and leave all the stuff in like I forgot with the soup. So okay, so you can eat the carrots or toss them. Obviously, you're going to want to pull the meat from the bone, but there's a decent bit of broth, and it really does smell absolutely amazing. So I'm going to just set that aside. Then I'm going to take a fork and kind of separate out. I mean, this is just kind of, they are really soft. They're like the consistency of pot roast carrots. So I may actually mash them up and make gravy or something with them. Like make gravy to go with them, not make gravy out of them. So it looks like this is meat that I'll be able to pull apart. I know this container is like way too big, but I know there's going to be fat on that one. This appears to be coming off almost like pot roast. I think actually I have a chuck roast in there. Maybe I will add that to the soup tomorrow because this definitely smells like pot roast. My kid thought it smelled like short ribs and noodles. Either of them, I guess, makes sense though, right? So yeah, there wasn't a lot of meat on these bones. And this one I knew from the start wasn't going to be meat. That's just all like, I don't know, connective tissue or whatever. So I'll go ahead and throw out all this. I'll save the meat and I will put the, I'll give this a little time to cool because I don't want to crack my Pyrex bowl. So I will let this cool a little bit and then cover it and put it in the fridge so that I can remove the fat. And then I'll just toss this out and put the meat in the fridge for later. Okay, so it's the next day now, and you can see it has, originally when it was in the fridge, it had like this beautiful skin that was just going to be easy to take off, but it cracked on the way to the thing. So I'm going to just take and gently okay, you know what? That took a lot of broth. I'm in gloves anyways because I cut my hand. I don't know if you could save this as like tallow fat. I'm kind of curious if you could. But now you can see. So I know that I have way more fat than I'm going to want for, or I'm sorry, not way more broth than I'm going to want for my soup. So since I only want to make a small amount, I am going to just measure out about 3 cups of broth. I really wish I had a slightly smaller pan, but I don't. So now I have the soup. Next, I'm going to take the meat from last night that I saved. And it's kind of a pot roast consistency. I'm just going to kind of peel it. A lot of the fat did cook out last night into the broth and has now been separated, so I think that's actually fat, so I'm going to set it aside for now. Yeah, so you can see, like, sometimes you're going to have the fat that just gets set aside. Obviously, you don't want to bite into it. This I definitely recommend doing by feel, because you can definitely feel the difference between meat, which is like a softer feeling, and the connective tissue and such, which is a stretchier feeling. I mean, I guess I'll show you here. Like, it kind of stretches, like, I don't know if you can see that. It kind of stretches like a rubber band. Versus the meat kind of just pulls apart. If you've ever had pot roast or a chuck roast based thing, so you can see, again, like very stretchy versus, not that one. Oh, this is all, okay, none of that's good meat. Okay, so I didn't get as much meat as I'd hoped, but that's okay. So I already have some diced up onion. I'm going to add that. Then I am going to I'm going to save that carrot for later because I don't think I'm going to use that much. Then I'm going to see if I can. Okay, good. This is a little sharper than it was yesterday. I like my carrot in my soup relatively small. Okay, so I've got a bunch of carrot. And then I am going to actually, not a fan of cold broth, but it's got a decent flavor. I want to add just a little more wine so I get the flavor, but it'll cook off. And then I'll add some of my seasoning mix. Okay, so I'm at the stove now. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to start it out high so that comes to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to simmer it for about half hour before I add the noodles. It's almost boiling, and I realized that I forgot I'm supposed to add the tomato and the lemon peel. So I just kind of made a twist where you just kind of like peel it off quickly. But it kind of came apart, so I've got like 3 little pieces. You're also supposed to add tomato, but this tomato's like hard and mealy. It was the best tomato they had at the store, but it still is terrible. So I'm going to just add a little bit extra tomato paste instead for flavor. You can see it's about to boil. It's just starting to boil. You can look at the edges. You don't want it to necessarily come to a rolling boil. So I'm just going to turn down the heat. Okay, so I'm going to let it simmer for 30 minutes. Then I'll put in the pasta. I'm going to go ahead and put the pasta in. I'm just using cavatappi. You could use egg noodles if you preferred. 103 grams, so about 100 grams to 3 cups, I would say. We'll see. That may end up being a little thick, but we'll see how it cooks out. The reason I'm making a smaller batch is because I don't like to freeze pasta. It's just really something I dislike doing. I find that it gets kind of a weird texture. So, and some people will they'll cook the pasta separately and add it, but I really like how the pasta gets infused with the broth. So I'm adding it directly to it so it can kind of get infused there. It's been about 8 minutes since I put the pasta in, and you can see it's boiling pretty hard. The pasta is not fully cooked, but between evaporation and the pasta, a lot of the broth is getting absorbed. So I am going to put in about, where are we at? I am at like 1 3/4 cups. So I will put in about half of a cup. Of broth, just because I want to make sure that I do still have enough liquid so that it's still soup and not just like some weird pasta dish. I forgot about the carrots having to cook, and they're still pretty hard because it's only been about 25 minutes. So I'm going to turn this back down to a simmer, give the pasta time to incorporate, cover it up. Okay, so it's been about 6 more minutes. So I guess the total cooking time that I used for the soup, in my case, was 36 minutes. But you can see the broth kind of thickened a little bit from the pasta, so it is a little thicker broth. And, and the pasta is all cooked. I mean, it's definitely more of a pasta-ish soup. I could have obviously added more beef broth, but I know my kid's not a huge fan of broth. So if I want him to also eat it, I want to make sure I do want to see how much it made overall. So I'm going to pour it in to this giant bowl, make a mess of my stove, find out it's 794 grams of soup. Okay, so with the beef noodle soup, you can choose to plate it in a bowl. And you can see, you can see the noodles, the beef, the carrots. It's a nice thick soup. But because it is thicker, you can also choose to serve it more on a stew plate. Okay, so you can also kind of put it on a stew plate and eat it that way. Again, my name's Melissa, and this year I'm sharing 365 tips for frugal living. Along with tips for frugal living, I'm going to share some recipes and such so that you can implement these tips in your own life. So today's recipe was beef stew. And if you want to see more recipes and hear more tips for frugal living, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.